you don't want to retire from something. You need to retire to something. And
Absolutely.
you have to change your mindset as you enter into this huge phase of your life. And for most people, obviously, it's going to be their final or one of their final phases of life, right? So you need to make sure that you're doing it because you want to do it, because you want to go to something, not because you're running away from something.
Right. People who retire too early, it is not because of fear of failure, right? Because they clearly are not afraid of failing or they wouldn't retire yet. But it is usually, at least in the experience that I've had all I can take. I hate my job. Now, there is a statistic, and this is really dated, but it probably hasn't changed that much. 7% of the people in this country really like their jobs. So I feel for that other 93% out there. Mm-hmm. They are wanting to retire because they are tired of the rat race. They hate their job. They hate their company.
Hello and welcome back to another edition of the Retirement Planning Happy Hour. Eric, Douglas, Chris Vaughn, Family Wealth Planning Partners. Thank you very much for joining us. So we have a really interesting topic and a really different concept as well for the bourbon tasting today.
I got creative this week.
Yep. So we'll get to that here in just a second. But first and foremost, on the topic. So the topic for today, we are going to talk about things that we knew or things we wish we knew heading into retirement.
Right.
And so this is going to be, I think, a collection of, let's say, pieces of advice or a collection of stories that we've heard from all of our clients about things that maybe they wish they knew or had prepared for maybe a little bit differently as they entered into retirement. Maybe not even necessarily advice, just things that are observations and things that we've gleaned from all of our clients over the years of working with them about kind of what life is like in retirement and things that they're having to do to stay busy, to stay active, and to feel purpose. Right?
And I'm going to go ahead and add to it, just doing a cursory look at all the different kind of subtopics on that. We came up with 2 pages so fast, there's no way we're going to get through all of it. So this is probably going to be a part 1.
It very well may be, yeah.
So don't be surprised if that's what you see on the podcast, that this is part 1.
And then on the bourbon, so you might notice we have 4 different glasses as opposed to 2.
And no bottle.
Yeah, and no bottle, because I have absolutely zero idea what we're drinking today.
Right.
So I'll let you take it from there.
Okay, so we had talked about this in the past. You had made the comment a couple of weeks ago that, we need to try something that's not in the Beanie Baby unicorn space, or something that is a little bit lower cost,
more approachable.
Okay, you know what? That's not a bad idea. And I was kind of thinking about what I might want to bring. And I said, you know what? Instead of just doing that, let's bring in a couple of things that are not in the same price point and let you taste them blind. So I'm going to give you a little bit of detail. First of all, Eric has the nice crystal glasses because we only have 2 of these Glencairns in the office. I said, well, I got to bring something from home. So I'm going to bring the good stuff and let Eric use those because the guest would get the nicer glasses, right? So these are nice crystal glasses.
I don't think it's going to affect the taste too much.
I'm going to disagree with you. I think crystal is better, but you're going to spend some money on it. I will go ahead and apologize up front. The little pipette that we normally use, I cannot find it. We tore the house apart. I didn't leave it in the office, so I think I'm going to buy one and leave it here for future. But once again, Element 502 is going to make their presence known with the little beaker, so we can try to put a couple drops in there if you want to. Yeah. So let me tell you the differences here. These are both in the 90 proof range, so these are not high proof bourbons. One of them does have an age statement on it. The other one does not. They are both true bourbons. One of them is, well, I'm not going to tell you where they're from. That's not appropriate. They're both Kentucky bourbons. One of them,
I feel like that was kind of a given.
Yeah. One of them is I think the retail on it is $60. I will tell you that I paid $67, so just slightly above retail. I had to look it up. But I will also tell you that you normally, when you find it in the wild, as we say, it's a $70 to $100 bourbon. Okay. The other one is a $30 bourbon. I paid $30 for it, and it's something that is readily available at this point in time, right? So I'm not going to tell you which one is which. If you're listening, you can't see this obviously, and even if you're watching, you probably can't. At the base of the glasses, I do have numbers on them. So one is a number 1, one is number 2, and then I numbered the bottles, which are under the table here. We'll pull them out towards the end. And then you'll be able to know which one you're drinking. And I want to know, first of all, do you like one distinctly better than the other? Yep. Why? Why not? Right? If both of them are like, yeah, they're both great, and I don't really care, I'm going to buy the cheaper one because I can't tell the difference. I'm going to let you kind of figure that one out. So as you're working through the two, I would encourage you to drink them neat, and I would encourage you to cut both of them.
I will say, just when I first nose it, right? Yeah. That's the professional term, right? So when you sniff it, I don't smell a huge difference immediately.
Okay. And I would argue that's probably because the higher proof stuff tends to have a lot more intense nose to it. So, all right. With that said, let's start diving into our topic.
Yep. So I think let's start at the very beginning, right? How did you know it was time to retire? Okay. And one of the first questions, if we've got a kind of a new retiree or a client we're working with, it's talking about retirement. One of the first questions I usually go to is why. Why now? Why today? Because what we see a lot of is clients, it's my 65th birthday.
Bingo.
They use some type of a birthday, or you see a lot of end of the years. I'll kind of work through the holidays, and they do that because usually they take half of December off anyway, so they're going to get paid through the holidays and then quit on January 1st. See a lot of that too. But usually it's not something that occurred, or there's not really much of a reason or thought into it other than it's a birthday. Mm-hmm. It's some date on the calendar that they had penciled in. It's not so much, and usually it's not so much of a feeling about, them being ready or sick of their job or ready to move to the next phase of their life. It's usually, it's because I'm turning 65 and I'm eligible for Medicare. Not that there's necessarily anything wrong with that, but it's just interesting that more often than not, when you think about a major decision in your life, you're usually not basing it on a date on the calendar. And usually I'm trying to glean from clients why today, why 65 or whatever that date may be, more so than just because it's my birthday and I think it's time, right? Like, why is it time? Yep. And I want to know more about the why. Why do you want to move into retirement? Why take the next step? Why take the leap into retirement? And I'll be honest, most people don't really have a great why.
No, they don't. The ones that I hear, so you hear 65, you hear 66 in a number of months, or 67.
Social Security. Yeah.
Which is Social Security. You hear 65 because of Medicare. You hear 62 also because of Social Security.
Sure.
And then you hear some kind of random ones ranging from 55 to about 65 and that are pension related. I'm eligible for my pension at that date, so that's my retirement date.
Yeah.
But to your point, the why that I hear is because I'm eligible for something at this point. Because isn't that what you're supposed to do, which is the worst possible answer, right? I think the regret, go back to the title, the regrets that we hear from people after they're retired. It's the why that's not related to a number. It's because I was ready, because I wanted to move on to the next phase and I was capable of it, and I had a plan of attack for what I wanted to do. One of the worst things that we hear is, I was just kind of ready to retire. I wanted to do something else, but they didn't know what. And they spend the first 2, 3, 4 years kind of floundering, looking for something. Half of those people end up going back to work. Right?
And we do see that.
Because they're bored.
Exactly. I was going to add on, because we do see a lot of clients go back not because they necessarily have to, but because they want to. They kind of realize, I've retired and I don't really have anything to do. You make a couple trips and you do a few things, and then you kind of make it through 6 months to 9 months, and then you realize, okay, I'm kind of bored. This was cool for a little while, kind of like a vacation. Yeah. Maybe week 1 of a vacation is really fantastic, but if you spread that thing out to 2 weeks, it's like, okay, you start getting maybe a little bit antsy.
Yeah.
And so I think the most important thing that we've gleaned over the years from clients that we've talked to is making sure that you have a why, that you are retiring to something. You're not retiring from something. You're not retiring from your job just because you turn 65 or because you've got 20 years and your pension kicks in or whatever. You don't want to retire from something. You need to retire to something.
Eric, I don't know the way that you present this when you're working with a new client. But something that I always do is, we talk about, what are you going to do when you retire? I'm going to do nothing. I'm going to sit on my butt and vegetate. Okay, and then what? That's what I always ask them. And then what? Well, that's what I'm going to do. Okay, you'll be dead in 5 years. Yeah. You'll be bored out of your mind. The human mind is not designed to vegetate. To do that for a couple of weeks or even a month, good for you, right? Mm-hmm. Just turn the world off and sink into a book and turn off the news and social media and all that. That's a vacation. That's not a lifestyle, right? So, yeah, that why, you need to have a purpose. Otherwise, and we hear it all too often, you either go back to work. Well, you'd have been better off if you'd stayed where you were, making more money at something that you're already good at. Mm-hmm. Or, unfortunately, we do see people that not too long into retirement, their health starts going downhill. And it's primarily because they don't have a purpose. There's no motivation anymore. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're going to come back. We're going to come back to that a little bit here. Now, on the feeling of retirement, the feeling of first retiring, and when retirement kind of becomes normal. Okay. Because I see a lot, as far as the feelings that people have going into retirement, there's a lot of anxiety. Sometimes there's a lot of fear. Obviously, our biggest job is to alleviate that fear. And I've, had plenty of times, and it's interesting because there is a difference between clients that are just, yep, I'm ready to go, I'm happy, I'm thrilled, and but you have a bunch of other clients that don't go into it quite as fearlessly because they're just more anxious. And am I going to run out of retirement? It's a new normal. They're not used to not working, to not making money. So it's kind of a fearful experience for a lot of clients that obviously that's what we're here to alleviate, right? And that's our job. But there's only so much we can do to alleviate those emotions. So it's interesting because I found typically it takes about 9 to 12 months for clients to kind of become used to retirement. Yeah. Oh, yeah. To become used to, okay, my accounts aren't going to collapse. I still have money a year into retirement. Yeah. That the plan that we set forth is working. Everything is kind of going according to plan. And it usually takes almost that kind of 9 months to a year time frame to really actually feel comfortable in retirement.
Usually when I'm having that very first meeting after the retirement date with a client, so 3 to 6 months in, I always start the meeting off with, so how's retirement treating you? And I always get the same answer. It doesn't feel like I'm retired yet because they're not used to it. All the anxiety is still there for some people. They haven't really got into the groove. It's a really long vacation still at that point in time. Mm-hmm. So, 6 to 9 months before they really start getting into the groove.
Yeah, so that's some of the around the feelings. I think a lot of people don't really know how to process their emotions as they head into it, or there's so many emotions at the exact same time. That it doesn't really become kind of a new normal for another 9 to 12 months. Yeah. It has been our experience anyway. So that's certainly something that you kind of want to expect. Mm-hmm. It's totally normal, right? Having all of the different emotions. This is obviously a huge, huge life change. Having all kinds of different emotions about it is totally normal. We see it all the time. Yeah. We've seen tears in our office. We've seen elation in our office.
And when it's those two at the same time, those are the best meetings, right?
We see the happy tears. Yeah. We've seen the sad tears. We've seen the fearful tears. Yep. We've seen just the exuberance. Yeah. And so we've seen all kinds of different, one of the things about our job, obviously, that I probably didn't appreciate as much as I should have when I got into this business was how much of therapy was involved.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know I was going to be a therapist, but I feel like I am all the time.
And there's definitely some of that. And there's definitely some of that. I was talking to Annalise this morning about a client, and she was like, "Oh, were you having to play Eric, the therapist, Eric?" I was like, "Yeah, a little bit. I was." So anyway, I think that's something once again, things to prepare for and be ready for as you enter into retirement. I think that the wide range of emotions is certainly one you should very much be prepared to experience. So,
all right. So let's move on to the next one. Planning mistakes. Oh my gosh. Now, when we're dealing with clients who they were clients of ours pre-retirement, and we built up the plan, and they knew what to expect upon retirement. That's not who we're talking about. It's the people who put together a plan, whether it was done by another professional or whether they did it on their own. We get a lot of that. It's not seeing certain things that are expected. And one of the ones that I want to hit is taxes. I remember this conversation very distinctly with somebody who I met with this 4 or 5 years ago. they were about to retire, and they realized they probably should get some professional help. So they hadn't worked with anybody up to this point in time. They'd done their own taxes. They did their own investments, blah, blah, blah.
Many such cases.
It was an engineer, go figure, right? Brilliant people who do not realize the limitations of their knowledge in many cases. And I swear to you, Eric, these people looked at me and said, we don't have to file taxes after we're retired. I said, why not? They said, because you don't have to do that. Really? Because that's new to me. Our CPA that we talk about sometimes, he loves to make the comment, you don't have to pay your taxes, but you do have to file your taxes, right? Yeah. So, that was one that you are still going to pay taxes in retirement. In many cases, and there's a myth, it's in our book, we were talking about that before we started recording. Many people believe your taxes are going to go down after you retire because your income is going to be lower, maybe not. That's not what most clients tell us. They don't want to make less, they want to make same or more. But the way that your taxes are done is different. And it's there's new taxes. We were talking about the people that are 65 or over when they retire. Well, if you've already filed for Medicare, you got this neat little tax called IRMA. That's a new one for people in that group. So not understanding taxes, not understanding the implications, not understanding where you need to be pulling your money from different types of accounts at different windows in time. That's one that unfortunately people find out too late. Yeah. It was a big deal. It wasn't a little deal. It was a big one.
Well, as it relates specifically to taxes, the reason why people don't take a tax cut in retirement, they still continue to pay the same amount of taxes, is because, and this goes back to kind of another mistake that people assume going into retirement, that they're not going to be spending as much money.
Right.
And the vast majority of the time, that is 100% not the case.
Not true, yeah.
Because we just got done talking about getting used to kind of the new normal and all of the time that you now have available on your hands. And so this isn't so much necessarily a retirement mistake, but it's a little bit of a myth that people have going into retirement, that I'm not going to be spending as much money as I did while I was still working. And the reasons they use, the two that I hear the most, and there's certainly others, but I'm not going to be spending as much gas going into the office every day, and I'm not going to have to buy as many clothes for work. There's others, but those are usually the two big ones that I hear. And I'm like, how much are you really spending on gas? How much are you really spending? Right. Like, you're still going to go places. You're still going to get in your car.
And that's the point. Yes, you're not going to spend as much gas going to work, but you're going to spend gas going places other than work, right?
Exactly. And the line that I always use is, when you go into retirement, you have all of this time that you never had before. And you have to spend that time doing something. You are going to fill up that time with something. And I would say probably 90% of the things that you're going to fill that time with is going to cost money.
I love to tell people, especially after you first retire, you're going to want to play. Yep. Right? These are things that you should. Absolutely, you should. These are things that you couldn't do when you were working because you had to take days off, or you had to get it piled in on a weekend. But during the weekend, you had other things you had to get done too. So you just didn't have the luxury of doing these things whenever you feel like it. You want to go play. Playing costs money, right? Mm-hmm. There's no playing out there that doesn't cost you something. And that's not the kind of expense that you had during your working years. So to your point, yeah, you're not going to be spending as much money on gas going to the office, but you're going to be spending money on gas going elsewhere. You're not going to be spending as much money buying clothes for the office, but you're still going to have to get the Hawaiian shirts and the flip-flops to go deal with the warm weather, right? You still have the same types of expenses, just in a different way. In some cases, more of them, right?
You take one extra trip that first year, right? Let's say it costs $3-4 grand. $5-6 grand, whatever it's going to cost. Okay, well, that's going to cover the gas.
You just spent all that savings.
Exactly, right. So that's one of the big things that I think a lot of people don't quite prepare for and understand as they enter into retirement, is in most cases, especially kind of the first 5 to 10 years of retirement, you're probably going to be spending more money. Yeah. You're going to be checking off those bucket list items. You're going to be spending your time doing things. Hey, guess what also happens around the time that most people retire? They typically have grandkids. Grandkids ain't cheap. I've been told that. Hey, my parents happily spend more money on my grandkids than they spent on me growing up. So
that's what grandparents do.
That's what they do, right? And so I've joked with a few clients about having a grandkid budget.
It's a great idea.
Seriously, because they spend that, they build that into their budget, and I'm going to spend X amount of money on my grandkids. That's what they do. It's awesome. I highly recommend, right? If you're able to do
Absolutely.
So. But that's one of the things that a lot of people I think aren't quite prepared or don't quite understand as they enter into retirement is the amount of money that it will cost. Yeah. So.
All right, so let's move on to our next one that's kind of a related topic, is retiring too early or too late. And this kind of goes back to where you were starting off at the beginning. Too many people decide to retire based upon a birth date because of what they're eligible for. It's when I can get my pension. It's when I'm eligible for Social Security. It's when I can get my full Social Security, Medicare, blah, blah. We've heard them all, right? But my thought is, you know what, if you wait to retire beyond what you're capable of retiring, how many years did you miss out on going and just doting on grandkids or doing the vacation that you couldn't do during your working years, right? That one's one of those, it's a wasted opportunity to me. Now, the problem is if you don't have a good financial plan that everything is laid out, picking your retirement date is a little bit of a guess, right? And I think that's why some people will work too long, is because they don't want to guess wrong. Right? I want to work extra because I know if I work 3 more years, 5 more years, whatever, that'll get us by. I will have saved up enough, whatever. But if you didn't need to, all you're going to be doing is leaving money behind, right? Instead of going out and enjoying it. So if you want to comment on that one before we talk about going too early.
Well, so going too late usually is a result of it's an emotional decision based on fear. A lot of times, people that are working too long, and it's also sometimes fear based on the fact that maybe they don't quite fully understand what their why is. I did have one client of ours that I talked to extensively, and she's actually still working, and she's kind of scared to retire because her brother and her sister both retired. They didn't have a why, and her brother and her sister both told her to keep working as long as she could. It'll keep her young, keep her active, and they said they both regretted retiring too early. So she's kind of listening to her family members tell her that retirement's kind of a scary thing,
right?
And she's not treating it as such, and she likes her job, and she's fine where she's at. So it's not like she's working in a coal mine by any means, but there is a little bit of anxiety about retiring because she's a little bit afraid of what's on the other side.
Yep,
because it's a new normal.
Yeah, so, exactly right.
And so just in the way of, sometimes retiring too early can be a mistake based on, or you're making that decision to retire too early because emotionally you hate your job and you just want to move on to the next thing and you think you're ready. Same kind of thing on the other side, right? Yep. You're fearful to retire because you don't know what's on the other side and you're afraid of what's on the other side. So a lot of this comes down to emotional decision making. Which, once again, if you're working with someone like us, we can kind of help remove emotion from the equation.
Correct.
And give you, from a logical standpoint, how well prepared are you today? How well prepared will you be in 2, 3, 4 years? And we can help add a logical component to what is admittedly a very emotional decision, as it should be, as it always will be. But you need to have some logic and some numbers to maybe help balance out the emotional side of the decision that you're having to make.
Right. Okay. So I think that's an elegant way of putting why people retire too late. It's a fear of failure. That really is what it comes down to. So let's take the opposite side. People who retire early. Now, I think it's very safe to say you and I are going to agree that people who retire too early, it is not because of fear of failure, right? No. Because they clearly are not afraid of failing or they wouldn't retire yet.
But it's still a very emotional decision.
It is a very emotional decision, but it is usually, at least in the experience that I've had all I can take.
They hate their job.
I hate my job. Now, there is a statistic, and this is really dated, but it probably hasn't changed that much. 7% of the people in this country really like their jobs. Which means you and I are in an elite group of people because we love what we do. And I'm so blessed.
Super fortunate, yes.
That I look forward to coming to work.
I didn't always have that.
No, absolutely
not. When you do have it, it's a wonderful blessing.
Oh, it's fantastic. So I feel for that other 93% out there. They are wanting to retire because they are tired of the rat race. They hate their job. They hate their company. Maybe they used to love the company. I've seen this one a lot. They used to love the company and the job, but the company got bought out. Mm-hmm. Or the boss that everybody adored, he was awesome, but his son took over.
See it all the time.
And can't stand this jerk. He knows more than everybody. This guy thinks he's God on earth. Yeah. We've heard those stories. I get why you would want to retire now, right? If I hated my job or if I was tired of it, and then now there's a new variable that makes me hate it, makes me dread Mondays. Yeah, I totally get that. I saw a meme pop up last night, or a reel, excuse me, that it was the days of the working week according to the Lord of the Rings. Oh. and it was, you know,
I love the Lord of the Rings.
I love the Lord of the Rings too. But it was the scene in the second movie where I can't remember the name of the castle. They're in the keep, and the rain starts, and the king says, "And it begins." And it was calling that Monday. That sounds horrible to me, right?
I do. Whenever you hear, you see these posts or you see people talk about the Mondays. I mean, we are very fortunate in that.
Oh yeah,
I'm happy to go to work on Mondays.
Now we still love Fridays. Don't get us wrong, because we get to record this and drink bourbon. But that's why we love Fridays, right? Sorry, I'm stealing your thunder there a little bit.
No, but I think it all goes back to you don't want to retire from something. You need to retire to something. And
Absolutely.
you have to change your mindset as you enter into this huge phase of your life. And for most people, obviously, it's going to be their final or one of their final phases of life, right? So you need to make sure that you're doing it because you want to do it, because you want to go to something, not because you're running away from something.
Right. And when you do it, and I've had this conversation more times than I care to think about, and I know you have too. Yes, you want to do it because you're retiring to something, absolutely. But if you're really fed up and if you retire too early and now you spend the rest of your life worried about running out of money. Whereas if you'd have had a good financial plan and we could have pointed out to you, okay, I know you hate the new boss. The kid's a jerk. There's nothing like a 32-year-old telling a 65-year-old what to do, right? I get that, but I can show you mathematically if you will work for X amount of time longer, it changes all these variables. It changes your mindset. You know what? I can put up with a lot for a very short period of time in order to create something. So it takes some of the guesswork out. To your point, it takes the emotion out of that decision to an extent, making it easier to make that decision. So,
have you heard of the FIRE movement?
No, I don't think
it's
I have.
Like the financial independent retirement, financially independent, retiring early, or something like that. I don't remember. It's something like that. But the FIRE movement is basically retiring well into your 50s, right? And instead of early in your 50s, or kind of early to mid 50s, or as early as you possibly can,
right?
And so it's interesting because what I am seeing a little bit of a trend of, maybe it's a micro trend and maybe it's just a few cases, I don't know, but I definitely have some of my younger clients who I love working with that are doing some fantastic things, but they're focused on trying to retire at 55. And okay, it's one thing to kind of say that, but when you're 30, 40 years old and that's a goal, that's a wonderful goal to have. But I usually try to steer them in the direction of thinking about having financial independence at 55, so you have options. Mm-hmm. Don't focus on the retirement. Focus on the independence. Yeah. Because 55 is young.
Oh, my gosh.
55 is really, really young.
I am 54 right now.
Yes.
I cannot imagine retiring next year.
And people are meant to have a purpose, right?
Absolutely.
And this is, once again, a broken record, retiring to something. But don't just retire because it's a goal that you set in place 20 years ago. Right? You don't want to retire at 55 or 65 or whatever that number is just because that was the number that you had in your head. Make the goal financial independence so you give yourself options. So that way, when you get to 55 and you have that independence, you're not retiring because, this was the goal I set for myself 20 years ago. Now you can think of, what do I really want to do with this next phase of my life? Maybe before I finally wrap things up and retire into the sunset, so to speak. Maybe what do I want to spend the next 5 to 10 years doing, but I want to be focused on? Maybe I don't need to make as much money because I'm financially independent now, but what's something that I have a passion for?
Yeah. Okay, so I want to skip this little next section that we were looking at because there's a tie-in down here. It's how hobbies and volunteering or grandkids bring joy. And we've talked about with clients many, many times, what is the purpose of money, right? And it's amazing to the number of people that say, well, it's to make more money. Okay, for what purpose? Well, so that I can get to a number. For what purpose, right? The purpose of money is to buy the things that bring you joy. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's things, maybe it's services, maybe it's donations, giving to grandkids, whatever. What brings you joy? That's what the money is for. One of the big transition things into retirement, and this is the reason I wanted to skip to this when we've been talking about retiring to something. Okay, so what are your hobbies, right? What do you like to do? Because once you retire, you're going to get a chance to do a lot more of it. And I'll pick on my dad for a minute. I like to do that because he's just begging to be made fun of. I'm sorry. If you're listening and you know my dad, you know he's begging to be made fun of. My dad learned when he was young how to work with wood, right? Woodworking, carpentry,
it's funny
whatever
you
you
say
want to call
that
it. And it's so common. Right, go ahead.
I had two clients that I was going to, go ahead.
So Dad loved, and I mean loved, to build things. Now, what he built was not complex. He was really into building boxes. And when I say building boxes, I mean, just a box, right? Now, understand that these boxes were indestructible. It would take an act of God to tear up one of the boxes because he over-engineered everything, right? But he took great pride in that. And we got boxes for gifts. Myself and both of my sisters, when we got married, he built all of us a hope chest. The hope chest we got, my wife and I have been married 29 years. We still have that hope chest. We've moved, I don't know how many times we've moved and the number of states that we've lived in during our marriage. That hope chest doesn't have a scratch on it. It's been hit. It's been dropped, right? Yeah. He really got into carpentry, took great pride in it. But what made it great was he could do it on his own. If Mom passed away first, which she did, he could still continue doing that. So it's not only a hobby that you can do together if you're married, it's a hobby that you can continue on with if you are a surviving spouse. And I think that's an important one.
I've got two clients that have basically set up their own wood shop. I mean, the one works out of his garage, and he does some really cool stuff. He's a widower as well,
right?
So that was part of one of the things he started to do to take up some additional time, obviously with his wife no longer with us. But he loves it, keeps him busy, and he builds some really cool stuff for us. He likes doing it because it's stuff that he can give as gifts to family members.
And that's what my dad was like that too.
I've got another client that actually went to a woodworking. He listens to I got to guarantee he's listening right now. He listens to this. He's told me, but he went to a woodworking school up in, I think, Vermont or New Hampshire. It was in the Northeast, though. I think it was Vermont. Maybe it was Maine. It was in the Northeast somewhere.
Right.
But he went to a woodworking school for like 2 weeks or something. And
good for him.
Built it into the plan, right?
That sounds
and took
awesome.
Some cash. It was like he said it was one of those things he kind of always wanted to do. Hey, he's retired. He had the time. He did it.
I think we get too wrapped up in the travel part.
Yeah.
And we should spend more time thinking about doing those kind of things.
Well, it's funny because it turned into travel because his wife met him out there, and they kind of went around the Northeast for a while. It was during the fall, late summer.
That's
early
when
fall,
you want to go there, yeah.
But yeah, he spent a few weeks up in the Northeast at a woodworking school, and he went through all kinds of stuff. Told me he loved it, had a great time. But it was like, that's really cool. He told me about it. That was a really cool experience for you, and that was something that he never could have done while he was
while you were working. You don't have time.
That's a great example of a bucket list item that. That gave him purpose and helped give him an identity.
So those are things that you can do. They're individual things. So you can do them without your spouse or after your spouse passes and you're a widow or a widower. But there's a lot of things that you can do that people don't think about. They don't plan on until too late that you can do with your spouse. Volunteering. So I'm thinking of a couple right off the top of my head that they volunteer in two different places. They volunteer in it's a charity, right? It's basically where they're making sure that foodstuffs are getting to people that don't have it, right? And they love it. And they always talk to me about, oh man, it's so great to go to this place. We enjoy it, blah, 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 blah. And they light up when they're talking about it. And all they're doing really is giving their time to people who are less fortunate than they've been. Incredibly rewarding. And it's something that you can do together. Or if one of them were to pass away, you can continue to do that as long as you're physically capable. But they also volunteer down at the Kentucky State Center for the Arts downtown. And they enjoy doing that. I've actually had other people come in who recognize them, right? They get to do that, so that's fun. They get to serve other people, but they get into the shows for free. So, those are things that you can do together. Those are hobbies, entertainments, things that are just fun that you couldn't necessarily do when you're working. Because if you're volunteering at the Center for the Arts, for example, you can't leave until the crowd's gone and it's 11:30 at night. You're not going to want to get back up at 5 o'clock in the morning and go to work. So these are things that you can do in your retirement years that you couldn't do. I have said this for years. It's probably going to happen. My goal is to retire at 70. I don't know if I'm going to go before or after that. Depends on how much fun I'm having, right? But I'm probably going to go get a job as a tour guide at Buffalo Trace because I'm loud. It's fun. It's something I don't care if they pay me. It's fun, right? But that's kind of the point. As long as you can enjoy doing something like that, and it's 20 minutes from where I live, you're enjoying your retirement. You have purpose. You have hobbies, all that kinds of stuff.
It's funny you say that. I had a client. He unfortunately passed away last year, but he was doing that at Heaven Hill. He was doing
Heaven Hill would be a fun one. I would do Buffalo Trace or Wild Turkey just because of where they are compared to where I live.
Yeah, made a few bucks, had fun, got to talk to people, taste bourbon, talk about bourbon. Loved it.
Oh my gosh, how much fun. See, that's something that would bring joy to me. So while we're on that note, I think that's a good transition.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what we're drinking here. So I am going to refrain from making any comments about either one of them. And the reason I'm going to do that is I've learned the power of suggestion in what you taste in bourbon is amazing. And I learned that from a guy named Steve Camisa. Steve, if you're listening, shout out to you on this one. I asked Steve, who's been in the business for a long time, I said, what are you looking for when you drink? What do you taste when you drink this? I thought it was a really intelligent question. It was not. And what he said was, what you taste is what you taste. What you like to do with your bourbon is what you like to do. That's what's important. But if I tell you I taste tobacco, there's a very good chance you're going to start tasting tobacco because it's the power of suggestion. So I'm going to refrain from making any comments.
Well, it's interesting, kind of along those same lines. I had a conversation with the master distiller at Heaven Hill, the Evan Williams Bourbon Experience downtown. Yeah. My sister used to work there.
Super neat place.
And so we were getting a private tour from him one time. It was really, really cool. But, he was talking about one of his favorite drinks is like just bourbon and Sprite. he wasn't mixing it.
Hurts my heart.
He wasn't mixing it with the expensive stuff, right? But he was just
But you know what?
He likes it. He likes it. If he's just relaxing, throw some ice cubes in there. It's a nice chilling drink. You like what you like, right? It doesn't have to be that complicated.
Probably the most famous tour guide in the world because of that neat documentary that came out a few years ago. I think it was on Netflix. Is a guy named Freddie Johnson, who's very much still alive. Yeah. I've actually had the privilege of doing a tour with Freddie Johnson. He is one of the coolest cats you will ever meet. Got to hang around and talk to him for a few minutes. And one of the things that he says is, there's no right way to drink bourbon. There's your way to drink bourbon. Yeah. If that's the way you like it, then that's the way you should do it. And if you want to put a pour out of a $5,000 bottle into a Manhattan, so be it. Just don't tell me you did it, because that'd kill me.
Well, his reasoning was, he spends all day tasting and doing the heavy stuff. So like he gets home at night. It's kind of like the carpenter who doesn't want to work on his house when he gets home. Right?
Yes, exactly.
It's the same kind of thing. Like he spends all day kind of doing this, and then he gets home. He's like, I just want a bourbon and Sprite, right? So anyway, my thoughts. It's interesting. When I first tasted, my very first impression was I did not like one as much as I liked two.
Okay.
And then subsequently, as I'm tasting more, I think I'm liking one a lot more than I like two. One is a little more
interesting.
It seems to, this is one. One seems to have now they're actually pretty similar. So I don't know. You said the price difference was about $30-$40, maybe even more than that.
It is okay. One of them is retail is $60, and I paid $67.
Yeah.
The other one, the retail is $30, and I paid $30. I paid
so neither one of these stands out above the other.
Okay.
By any means, they're actually relatively similar. I think you said they're both 90 proof, so that would probably
roughly, yeah.
Yeah. One is a little more complex. The more that I taste it, to me anyway. Okay. I don't know if I have any specific flavor notes. I'm not that guy.
Right.
But there's a little bit more of a hug going down the throat. There's not. I don't feel anything. I don't feel any aftertaste with either one of them in my mouth and my palate. But there's a little more of an aftertaste with one. Two is, it's not bad, but it's a little sweeter, and it goes down almost too smooth.
Okay. So let me let you.
First of all, I don't want to call it bad. It's not bad.
I taste more butterscotch with one, and I taste more butter with two. And I forgot to put a little bit of water in them because at 90 proof they really don't need it. But I wanted to taste it, and I accidentally poured a little bit too much water because, once again, this is why you use a pipette so you can control it. It killed one when I put that much water in it. It just so watered down all of a sudden. It's like, oh, man, that one should be left alone, right? I would have immediately, if you and I were just sitting here and enjoying a pour, and I had done that, I would have immediately grabbed the bottle and poured a little bit more in there to bring it back up, right? I can't do that because I need to keep the bottles disguised until we're ready to move on. So if price were not an option, which one would you take?
One.
You would take one. Okay.
Yeah.
If price were an option, is it enough of a difference that you would take one over two?
No.
So let's just say for argument's sake, you like one better. Let's say one is the more expensive, and we know it is roughly double. I did that on purpose.
But it's not good enough to pay double over what two is.
Okay, so would you like for me to reveal what you're drinking?
Absolutely.
All right. Which one do you want to know what it is?
Well, I want to know what they both are.
But which one do you want me to pull out first, though?
Give me two first.
All right, two. Yeah.
What was the one that I didn't like as much?
Oh, wait a minute. Number two, believe it or not, is a barrel pick.
Oh yeah.
Yes, it's a $30 bottle, and it's.
I did like the more expensive one.
Right, and remember with barrel picks. Well, no, actually, one was the you said that right. One was the regular. Two is the barrel pick.
And it wasn't
but it's
bad.
also the
bad.
cheaper one.
It wasn't
right?
bad. Yeah.
It's very good, and it was done by, we call it a Chris pick. It's done. It's through Kroger here in town, and I can't remember Chris's last name. He's a really cool guy. Chris's picks, his barrel picks that you can get at Kroger's tend to be really, really desirable because he has one of those palettes that a lot of people like. That's the problem with barrel picks. I can get a barrel pick that just absolutely blows me away, and then I can go to another barrel pick that I don't care for at all because the person or the team that did it, they don't have a palate that's similar to what I like. So, all right. Let's see. Number two.
Oh, Buffalo
Trace.
Yeah.
Now, it's a barrel pick. It's a Chris pick, but this is just Buffalo Trace. That's a $30 bottle.
Which I like.
2 years ago, you couldn't get Buffalo Trace.
Yeah.
You could find this stuff for $100 a bottle. Now you are seeing it in virtually every liquor store. If it's marked up above 35, leave.
Yeah.
Right? Because I can get it for 30 next door. Yeah. But this is a barrel pick. I've got, at this point in time...
Great everyday drinker.
It's a fantastic everyday drinker. And now that it's becoming more readily available, this is something that I'm always going to keep. Every bottle of Buffalo Trace that I personally own is a barrel pick from a number of different places.
Yeah.
And this is one that just came out recently. I actually got this bottle just last week. Now, they are still allocating this when it's a barrel pick. So where I got it, which was at the Kroger up in Middletown, you were limited to one. And I can tell you right now, a group of friends of mine and I were drinking this, and one of the guys had picked up a bottle, and we all went, for $30, this is a fantastic pour.
It was, yeah.
Why didn't you buy more? Because it was limit one, right? Okay, I get that. So that's what number two was. Yeah, I double check. I wrote a 2 on the back of the bottle so I didn't forget.
Yeah.
All right, number one. What do you think it is? You want to give it a shot at all?
No.
I'll give you a hint. It could be made at Buffalo Trace. It could be made elsewhere.
I mean, it wouldn't be Eagle Rare.
No, Eagle Rare's all Buffalo Trace product. This is one of those.
Oh, you mean it could be?
It could be made at Buffalo Trace. It could be made in Bardstown.
I I know it, and I'm drawing a blank.
1792,
yep.
age 12 years. So it's their 12-year product.
Yep.
That's why you tasted the complexity.
I like 7.
It's the 12-year, whereas Buffalo Trace is not age. It doesn't have an age statement on it. Most of us think that the bulk of the Buffalo Trace that you get is going to be 4 to 6 years old. I have a barrel pick of Buffalo Trace at home. I thought about bringing it today. That is an 8-year, 9-month-old barrel pick that was done by the master distiller at Buffalo Trace, and I haven't opened it. I'm dying to try it. I paid $16 for it, but it was a limit one. It was one of those funny things. I was hesitant to say this. I stopped by Buffalo Trace on my way home from Knoxville from a football game a couple of weeks ago. We just stopped on the way home. I walked in. The place was packed with tourists, right? The line was, I don't know, a half an hour wait to get through the line. Probably not that bad. And they had, I think they had Weller up on the shelves that day, but they also had a couple of tables. And they had these little 375 milliliter bottles of Buffalo Trace. And all these tourists are picking them up and going, nah, I don't want a little one. And I'm sitting there going, you got to be kidding me. I thought about going to everybody in the line behind me and handing them a bottle and saying, I will pay for yours, because it was limit one. Because it was a barrel pick, right? And then, believe it or not, I'm very hesitant to say this because I don't want anybody to know one of the secrets. They had a table full of Single Oak Project. Now, Single Oak Project is a bona fide unicorn. You are not going to find that bottle just sitting on a shelf at retail ever, right? It's a $375 that is $80 retail, and I've seen Single Oak Project sell for $1,000 a bottle. They had a table of it out there at retail, and all of these tourists are turning up their noses, and it's like, oh my gosh, this is one of the better bourbons you're ever going to taste. And they had no idea. Unfortunately, it was limit one. My son, who was with me, is 19, so he can't buy one. He was actually sitting out in the car doing a test on his laptop that was due the end of that day. And it just broke my heart. But
why haven't you let your son have a fake ID yet, Chris?
Yeah, okay. That's a different podcast altogether. So anyway, what we are drinking today is, number one, this is a $60 bottle retail. I paid $67 for 12-year-old 1792. That's a Barton product, but Barton does have a contract with Buffalo Trace to do some of their distillery, just for volume. And then number two was a barrel pick. It's a Chris pick from Kroger here in town. Not all Kroger picks are Chris picks, okay, but all Chris picks are at Kroger. That's a Buffalo Trace product. So that's what we're drinking today. So
I do have expensive tastes.
So you do have expensive taste, but you made a point. This is what I found interesting. You liked one better. That was the 1792.
Yes.
But you would not pay $60 if you knew the other one was $30.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting. Me, on the other hand, Buffalo Trace has a buttery taste to it. I love Buffalo Trace.
And now that I know that it's Buffalo Trace, I probably should have had a better idea. Yeah.
But at the same time, I wouldn't hesitate, because I pick up all those little flavors. I wouldn't hesitate to go for the one that's more expensive because I liked it that much more. Yeah. So, and that kind of comes back to, there's no right way to do this. It's, what do you like, right? That's the reason there's more than one product out there.
I was going to say, I guess with me having expensive taste, there's probably a joke to be made about my wife in there somewhere. But
your wife would appreciate the fact that you say you have.
I will refrain from going there, right? But so we're probably at a pretty good place to wrap.
Yeah, I think this is definitely a part one. I think
we're definitely going to have
a lot of stuff to go here.
I think we're definitely going to have a part two on this for sure, which makes our job easier next week, trying to figure out what we're going to talk about. but yeah, I think if there is a takeaway, retiring to something, don't retire from something.
Absolutely.
Having a clear purpose, and honestly, we talked about routine. We haven't even talked about that. I'll touch on that just because it kind of flows into having a purpose as well. But the clients that seem to have the happiest retirements have a routine. They get up, they go to the gym, they go have lunch with their friends, they go do pickleball or whatever it is. There's a routine.
Their schedule is full.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there's a joke that I've made that the retired people are some of the busiest people we have to
absolutely, and those are the happiest ones.
They are. They're busy, and they're not worrying about the finance stuff.
Yeah.
Because they're using us for that, clearly. But they're happy because they have a routine, they have a purpose, they have a why, and they're not sweating the small stuff.
Yep.
They're not focused on the details. They're focused on the big stuff. They're focused on life. They're focused on living. They're focused on having a purpose in retirement.
And doing things that bring you joy.
100%. So that's probably a fantastic place to wrap things up. If you would like help constructing a retirement plan that brings you joy, make sure that you give us a call. All of the information is down below in the show notes on whatever instrument that you are using to listen to us today, whether that's podcast, YouTube, or even if you're listening to us via our Facebook or Instagram pages. So hope you enjoyed today's episode. We will come back next week with a part 2 about things that you should be prepared for in retirement, things that people don't know or things that they're not aware of as they enter into retirement. So we have a lot more to talk about on that subject. So thanks for joining us. See you next time.